Thank you to Minister Dere. I'd like to call upon Knesset member Ayman Odeh, the head of the Joint Arab List. Honored President Reuven Rivlin, honored President of the Supreme Court Justice Miriam Naor, Minister of the Interior Aryeh Dere, Head of Meretz Zahava Galon, Professor Uriel Reichman, the head of the IDC Herzliya, Alex Mintz, the chairman of the conference, Harel Tuvi, the Director General of the President's Residence. Distinguished audience, I too will place my written remarks aside and relate with the greatest respect to you and to the words that were said before I spoke. I too listened carefully to what the President said last year, and they made waves and reverberated. And everyone related to the important things that were said. And I would also like to say that I share a number of important things with the President. First of all, to bring the various populations closer to one another, of course. Two, to advance the general welfare of all citizens. Three, to build shared citizenship. At the same time, it is important to me not to leave out such important things that we cannot ignore. The basic thing that guides me in politics is my deep internal conviction that the true interests of both peoples are equal. Everyone wants the blessing of life. At the same time, we cannot base ourselves only on universal words, on a general approach without getting into the details. The sages have said, or wise people have said, that God is in the details. Others said that Satan is in the devil is in the details. But I consider them very, very important. Before anything else, before talking about shared interests, I think it's easiest to talk about economics, because everyone knows that that's a shared interest. We pressured the Ministry of the Treasury to advance an economic program that is important to the Arab population, but is important to everyone in the population. And the President helped us. And he urged the advancement of this very important economic program. But apparently, there is a group that is more interested in its own party politics than the needs of the market. When conditions are set for a program that is good for everyone, that harms not only the Arab population, it harms everyone. Only 32% of Arab women work. If we increase that to 42%, it's good for the Arab woman, it's good for Arab society, it's good for the Israeli economy. When you set a condition, you harm Arab women, but you harm the economy in general for everyone. And so when we're talking about shared interests for both peoples, it's easiest to talk about the economy. But we need to act. When we're talking about terms like citizenship and nationalism, I am a person of content, not symbols. Because when you start talking about symbols, everybody withdraws into his own corner and you can't move ahead. So let's start with the brass tacks and then we'll get to the symbols. What does it mean to be a citizen, or what is nationalism? Great intellectuals like Kamlakal have said that civil rights include rights for minorities too. But ultimately, we want the rights, we want complete equality on the civil level and on the national collective level too. And I would like to explain why I am trying not to deal with the simples, because I see how the psychology just goes wild. When we ask for national rights, if we ask for national rights for Arabs, everybody will jump up and say this is a nation state. But the most important aspect of society is the Arabic language. And Arabic is an official language in Israel, and that doesn't stop anyone. It doesn't harm anyone or bother anyone. Imagine that Arabic was not an official language, and if I were to ask in 2015 for Arabic to be an official language, 90 MKs would jump up and say, sorry, this is a Jewish state. But when it is a given fact as an official language, it doesn't hurt anyone. So, to that extent, is this a psychological issue? I would like to carry on and talk about how we can create a joint citizenship. Mr. President, distinguished audience, we have a deep pain deep inside the heart of every Arab, and those are the injustices of the past. And it hurts me so much when I hear narratives of 3,000 and 4,000 years, when they preach to me not to talk about the past of 60 years and to talk only about the future. And it pains me so much that a nation that has realized its national rights is asking me talk only about the economy and about citizenship. What do you have to talk about nationalism? I am not post. I am not there yet. In order to build shared citizenship, we must talk about the past, because that is also the question of the future. And I would like to give you examples, and I will show how those interests are shared. One of the most simple examples are the unrecognized villages. We have the Minister of the Interior here, together with the Prime Minister, Yitzhak Rabin. They recognized the unrecognized villages in the north. The next day, everyone asked, why didn't we do this earlier? It's not only good for them, it's good for us too. And I am now looking at the Negev. It is said to be the most failing area in the country. Of course it's failing when there are 32% of the citizens who live in unrecognized villages without running water or electricity. So if you recognize those villages, it will benefit all the people of the Negev, not only the Arab people of the Negev. Just open up your hearts and open up your minds. I understand that there is a general interest. It is impossible. Here it's impossible because of a planning issue that's important to everyone. So I can say the same thing. But let us sit down and talk, and the goal is to recognize and to move ahead something that will benefit all the people of the Negev and all the people of Israel. The true interests are shared. Apparently that's not the most difficult thing, because there is a civil dimension, electricity and education. The national aspect is apparently the hardest. Let's get into history a bit. The injustices of the past. When the state recognizes the terrible massacre of Kfar Qasim, when it recognizes the injustice caused as a result of the military government and the confiscation of lands, will this really harm a single Jewish individual? I don't think so. It is in everyone's interest. That is how you build shared citizenship. But but to build trust between us, and so that people won't say that we're talking about the theory of stages, and not to prove that it's just one salami, one step at a time, or one slice at a time. We need to say in no uncertain terms that it's not the state of Israel, because we are in favor of two states side by side and not one state at the expense of another. But crimes occurred in 1948. How can we ignore that? How can we not talk about that? And I see how the injustices are corrected, and when you benefit one population, you benefit everyone. There is the problem of the uprooted villages. People were either driven out or fled during the war from one town to a neighboring town. They are citizens of the State of Israel, and they're not allowed to return to their land. And I'm asking, will it harm a single Jewish person? The State of Israel since 1948 has built 700 new settlements and communities, all of them for Jews, and 0 for Arabs. So if the people of Ma'alul need to be returned to Ma'alul, Damun to Damun, Ru'es to Ru'es, they build 80 villages. Will that harm a single Jewish person? Single one? I promise you that that is a true and deep interest for all of us. I have not hidden anything. I've put everything on the table. Is there anything in what I said, something that harms any single individual? And so, Mr. President, your speech was very important. But there is also a nation, and the word nation, who better than you knows that it is an important word? Who knows better than the Jews who've been asked if they are a nation or a religion? Do they have the right to self-determination or not? So when there is only a single nation, there's only one answer. Self-determination is a state, but when you have more than one nation, so the question is more complex. And that's why we need to talk about civil rights and national rights for Arabs in Israel. And it doesn't need to harm anyone. On the contrary, that is what will truly strengthen our shared citizenship. I listened very carefully to what you said, Mr. President. But you forgot an entire people, and that is the Palestinian people that lives in the Gaza Strip or in the West Bank. That people, too, deserves a place in the sun, like all the nations of the world. Even if you don't agree with that idea, you cannot ignore that nation. What can we say to the Palestinian people? I think it's clear. It's not all of justice. We and you are not alone in the world, and you are not alone in this land. And that is why we are talking about a historical compromise. It can be painful on this side or on that side. No one gets full justice. And the Palestinian people 100 years ago, like all the Arab nations, dreamed to drive out the British and establish the Palestinian state. But there were Jews here, and it was impossible. And so we reach a historical compromise, and it's quite clear what it will contain. The whole world agrees with this compromise, the establishment of a Palestinian state alongside Israel, and that state must have complete equality for both nations. Thank you.